Hello, everyone. I am starting a unannounced, but here's your announcement, January series of videos, and I'll be touching base with you. I believe my plan is going to be each Sunday. We'll be doing this, but probably, depending on what goes on, it might be on a Saturday too. But I am just sharing this to another page. So as you're joining, what I will be chatting and touching base with you about today is going to be on the difference of expansion versus contraction. And what does that mean? Well, it can mean a couple of different things. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I'm wondering if I can do some slime.
As long as you clean up your mess, you can do some slime, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We have a no slime allowed policy in our home. Okay, that is done. So now I can join you. So I wanted to touch base on something that in the retreats that I host, it's the theme that follows my business is of mentoring and coaching and is soul expansion, and it's more than a theme. It's something that I constantly am always coming back to in my personal life, not just in others that I serve and help. But really looking at the soul expansion term is looking where you are at in your life, and personally or professionally, it seems like you're always being called to expand or grow in some way or another. And I speak always from my own personal experiences. I'm not going to. It doesn't really always resonate with me when I can't like read a book or go to a workshop and then like teach from that. That doesn't work for me. It never has. I really integrate a lot of the things personally. And so soul expansion for me is something that I am, whether it's a fitness program, it's a nutrition, it's parenting, it's health and wellness, it comes back to that. And my personal journey of where I really started feeling like I was like expanding in a way that was so different than anything I had experienced is when I started understanding this mindfulness piece. And I mean, this is going back several years already, but I was just told myself subconsciously probably that the headspace that I was in, which was more negative than I even realized, was because I was an entrepreneur. It was because I had young children. It was because I was a female entrepreneur. It was because of childhood thing, all of these different things. I just gave myself excuses that I had this like monkey mind, go, and internal stress. And with that also came excuses. And as to like, it's because I'm working, it's because I'm breastfeeding, it's because I'm blah, blah, like whatever it is. And those are always, they were excuses. And until I started, I guess, thinking about it differently or becoming just genuinely curious as to if that really had to be my story, if I really had to feel that internal stress. And I don't know that I even consciously thought about it, but I had a curiosity of how could I support my mind, body, and soul all together rather than just focusing on my body or thinking my spirituality was separate, and just thinking that my mindset really didn't have anything to do with that. Like, this is a very younger version of me than where I am now, and so it's kind of even hard to remember. If I read some journals, I probably would come back to what that frame of mind was. But with that being said, the soul expansion process, I think, even started way back there because I had this natural desire to want to grow in my business, to want to grow in helping others, to want to grow into being a spouse and a parent in a way that really felt good to me in here. And versus expansion of that growth of like, here I am, but what more could there be for me, versus contraction. Contraction is an ego-based emotion. Ego meaning, I know what's right for me. I'm not going to do that. I don't know what that means. That seems scary. It's the ego is that voice within yourself that keeps you contracted, that keeps you small, that keeps you limited from what is the infinite possibility of your being, of your soul. And the difference of the two, I think we're either in contraction or we're in expansion. The choice is yours. And the choice is yours again and again and again. Are you rising up each day thinking that this is going to be like it's Monday tomorrow, or this is going to be a hard day, you can't stand your coworkers, you wish you were in a different job, you wish you were in a different relationship, you were in a relationship. This contracted, limited, excuse, victim type mantra that you tell yourself, and that could be health reasons, that could be spiritual reasons, that could be mentality reasons, that could be a lot of different things, versus expansion would maybe look something like setting an intention before you go to bed that you wake up with a more positive attitude, being optimistic or curious about new relationships that might be forming at work or more opportunities, following your dream, which is to be in a more joyous state, which means you bring up the conversations that are more joyous rather than participating in ones that are less than that. You're taking responsibility and being willing to grow, being willing to be led, being willing to transform, being willing to expand. Two different things. And I would say each might be painful, if that is the right term, in their own way. Staying contracted, staying in a victim, staying in an excuse mode that limits you from really where you want to be is, I believe, the more painful of the two. That would have been like me staying in a career that was not fulfilling, and I was handcuffed into how I could connect with other people, and I would see people sick and dying rather than thriving and taking health back into their own hands. Or contraction might be staying in a relationship that is not fulfilling, that is, hitting a dead end all the time, or maybe it's being afraid of starting relationships because you're afraid of being hurt. Contracted is this illusion that you're staying safe, because I could have kept the job or the career, right? But not knowing where I was going to be led all of these years, 15 years later. But expansion is like, maybe, like, I'm curious. There might be, I know there's something more than this for me, and I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to be willing, and it's in that willingness where it's a little uncomfortable, because there's no real guarantee for the ego out there. There's no guarantee that it's going to be everything that you want it to be. It's really a faith-led hunch. And so the soul expansion is where the growth is, though. It's being willing to grow. It's being willing to move forward. It's being willing to remain in a positive vibration or thought process, or being faithful on your path of what your heart's desires are, in contrast to being unwilling, right? And it really is a personal quest. It's very dangerous when you're starting an expansion perception of your life and comparing yourself to others around you, or allowing yourself to be around the same individuals or environment that the old you or the smaller contracted version of you would immerse yourself in. And that saying, like, misery loves company, is true, because it kind of feels reassuring when you're around other contracted, like-minded individuals. There isn't, I don't believe, ever a very successful person who is going to look down on somebody who's in their growth time. And that's something to be said, is if there's questions, if there's things that you're wanting to grow to, look to the people who have maybe already went through that path or been through that. Ask questions. Surround yourself with somebody who you look up to that is a more expanded version of yourself. That is a safer place for you on that pathway than in a contracted state, in a limited state. The other thing is, in addition to that, when you're feeling like you're wanting to have growth in some aspect of your life, which is very beautiful. This is what the planet needs, is you to continue to grow. We are not the same society today as we were 200 years ago or 100 years ago or even 10 years ago. I think infants are born knowing how to use an iPhone, and we might think, oh, that's awful, and as a chiropractor, like, that's a horrible posture. However, the intellect has ascended. It's changed. We have smarter, if you will, brilliance that's being born into this planet today because we continue to grow. And that's just one cheesy example. But with that being said, what about yourself? There's no age limit to growth. There's no age limit to expansion, to wanting, to desiring, picking up a new hobby or whatever it is. Those limiting beliefs that might hold you back is the only thing that keeps you there. So when you start having an inkling, when you start feeling that nudge of doing something new and different, and maybe it's a really big dream. Maybe you're wanting to do something that nobody you know has even done before. Sometimes it's safer to keep those things quiet, because what I've seen in my personal journey is sometimes there's bad advice. Sometimes there's really limited advice coming from somebody who hasn't ever been there. So how can they relate to you when you're in that dream-like, that growth-like mindset or energy, right? So be careful about who you share your dreams with. And sometimes it's better to just keep them to yourself, or with a mentor or a coach, or somebody that has, that you look up to, that you feel safe asking for advice. But advice is what? Is it just your ego looking for reassurance that you can do it too? Before you go in asking for questions on, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I not do this? Just know that it doesn't really matter what anybody else says is the answer. The answer truly has to be from within here, because I don't know anybody who's really going to do anything based on what somebody else told them to. There's encouragement, there is recommendations, there's different things like that. But when it comes to your soul's expansion, that is a really personal, private journey, and one that is a sacred journey, one that I believe we're all meant to be on all different wavelengths at all different points in our life. And the seasons change. This might not be a season of expansion for you, but you want to prepare yourself, because the season of natural expansion and growth is the spring. And as winter is more of a hibernation, how can you start ruminating? How can you start growing within and prepare yourself? Because you want something new for yourself this spring when naturally life comes. So how can you start changing the dialogue maybe that's keeping you small and contracted? You're just sick of it. You don't know where it's bringing you, but how can you start being curious and being supported? And last year at this time, I had led a group of, there's 90 of us, which was really fun, it was really unexpected, because I had just come back from a week-long retreat with Gabby Bernstein. And one thing that she had trained the group on, including myself, was how to lead a group in the May Cause Miracles. And many of you, if you already did that, you already have this book. I think it's a great opportunity for you to start doing it again. This is all about creating some subtle shifts within yourself to get out of, even if you're not aware of it, a contracted state. It might be on your personal self-worth. A contracted state might be in how are you manifesting miracles for yourself every day. A contracted state might keep you small in your relationships, personally, professionally, romantically, in parenting, or in if you have close friends around you. There's all different facets, and she's brilliant in here because she touches on those things that we all are a part of. And I think until you go through, for example, something like this, it's a 40-day process. You don't even realize, you might be overlooking some bad habits that you're unconsciously participating in. And that unconscious participation in something that is a contracted, low vibrational state can be the limiting factor of the thing you consciously want. You just didn't realize these other things are the actual lower energies that hold you back. So the 40 days of the May Cause Miracles is one of those things that for me, when I started working through this book years ago, up until I led the group last year after I was trained by Gabby, I loved it because the group held me accountable. Like, I didn't miss a day because I couldn't miss a day. And that just amplified everything. So with that being said, I'm going to be starting the 40 days again. I'm going to start it in February. I'm going to start it the first weekend in February. And you can do it all on your own. That is just fine. Or if you want to join me, I would love you to join me again. And the process, I will be meeting with each person in group-like setting. There will be actual modules sent out to you via email. every single week for the 6 weeks that this book is through. Yes, you want to have the book. Some people like listening. I have it on Audible as well. I like listening to it because she gives some really good points in each chapter, but there's journaling exercises that happen. And what I'll be doing is sending out memos on each day as there's new mantras, if you will, that come out. There's morning and evening and meditations, so it will help you to just get connected. The audio version, Gabby will actually guide you through the meditations, which is kind of nice versus like thinking you're going to read it. So there's different options, but the whole purpose of me even connecting today is coming upon the concept of, are you in a contracted, small, limited state? And are you wanting to grow from that? If yes is your answer, then do something about that. Have a way, use something like May Cause Miracles to help you to understand what is this expansion that you're feeling, you're desiring. And for those of you that are like, I am done being contracted, or for me, I'm always about expanding my awareness and my soulful life and perception. And so I come back to this, like I said, again and again and again, because you're always ascending, you're always growing. You have new perceptions each time that you transition. I mean, if you have 4 quarters in a year, 4 seasons in a year, or 12 months in a year, like whatever it is, you're constantly evolving and changing. If I have an x-ray of somebody one year and I take another one a year later, it's 2 different things. Like I have to adapt as their physician, sometimes nutritionally, sometimes structurally, sometimes how can I emotionally support my patients, because their life changes. You change, whether you believe it or not. Everything changes, and with that change becomes new awareness and growth. And if you can let go of old patterns or old habits that contract you, this is one of those tools that can help you to be more aware of it. Be aware of it. Take responsibility for your joy. Take responsibility for your ruts, and learn how to ascend, learn how to grow, learn how to expand, and come back to a practice that will help you to expand it again and again. So what are some of the things that I've had people in the past even share with me, like so many testimonials? I mean, I've seen people have like radical transformations in their careers, like went from very successful in one career and realized, like I am really realizing that I've been using this as a crutch. I've been using this as an excuse from what I'm really wanting to do. And they have transformed altogether as a result of not this like workbook, but as a result of what allowed them to come up that they didn't realize they were suppressing. I've seen people transform their relationships in their home. Their family dynamic just grew in such a beautiful way that there's more communication, there's more understanding, there's more forgiveness. And it's so easy. If you right now are listening and you can think of somebody you would like to point your finger at, that if they just would change, and I do this, like my husband is one of my greatest teachers, and I say that because it's so easy for me to just blame things on him. And I'm not saying he doesn't, take responsibility for what it is, but I have to learn to take responsibility for what is mine. And there's a whole week on relationships. And for me, romantic relationship with my husband is a sacred one. And it made me realize the things I could clean up on my side of the street so it could enhance that part of my life. And I've had a lot of other people notice that. Also, parent-child relationships have grown and blossomed as a result of that expansion in that area. So this is really accountability. It's 6 weeks of accountability. I'll guide you through the 40 days. I was personally trained by Gabby, which was fun. And so I get her take on the inside of this as well. And so I know that she does send all of her love to all of you guys while we will be doing this together. So if there's 90 of us joining again, or 190 or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But if you're interested in doing that, just be watching for opportunities like the Lindsay Dietrich page that I'm filming this from, and I'll be sending out, if you're not on my mailing list already, you can go to drlindsaymarie.com and join the mailing list for the workshop that'll be coming out. 6 weeks of some radical internal self shifts for expansion. I hope you can join me.